Have you ever stopped to wonder how your phone can capture the sound of your voice or a beautiful sunset and turn it into a perfect digital file? I mean, the world around us is smooth, it's continuous, it's analog, but our devices speak in ones and zeros. It feels like something has to get lost in translation, right? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the incredible mathematical secret that makes this digital magic not just possible, but perfect.
And that right there, that's the big question, isn't it? It just feels like it shouldn't work. How can a few snapshots, a handful of separate data points, be enough to rebuild an entire continuous wave in all its glory? Your intuition tells you that you're just throwing away all the information in the gaps between the samples. But what if I told you that if you follow one simple rule, you lose absolutely nothing? Let's dive in. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we first need to be super clear on the two different worlds we're talking about here. You've got the smooth, flowing world of analog, and then you've got the structured, step-by-step world of digital. Here's a good way to think about it. Imagine you're walking up a smooth ramp. You can stand at any point along that ramp. It's a continuous journey. That's analog. Now picture yourself walking up a staircase. You can only be on step 1, or step 2, or step 3. You can't be in between. That's the digital world. The whole challenge is, how do we perfectly describe that smooth trip up the ramp using only the locations of the individual steps? And the answer, the elegant, powerful piece of mathematics that bridges these two worlds, well, that's the hero of our story today. It's called the sampling theorem, and it is the bedrock of pretty much all modern digital communication. And here's the rule in all its glory. The sampling theorem states that you can perfectly, and I mean perfectly, with zero loss of information, rebuild any continuous signal from a series of samples. There's just one catch. You have to sample at a rate that's more than twice the highest frequency present in that signal. That's it. That's the secret sauce. Yep, it all comes down to that simple little multiplier, greater than 2 times. You just have to sample more than twice as fast as the highest note you're trying to capture. That minimum speed, exactly twice the highest frequency, even has a special name, the Nyquist rate. As long as you stay above that speed limit, you're golden. You are guaranteed to capture everything. So, okay, how on earth does that actually work? Why does just sampling fast enough preserve all the information? To really see the magic behind the theorem, we've got to look at our signal in a totally new way. Instead of a wave changing over time, we're going to look at its frequency fingerprint, or what engineers call its spectrum. You know, every sound is just a mixture of different frequencies, right? From low bass rumbles to high-pitched whistles. This graph here shows that frequency fingerprint. See how all the frequencies are contained within a certain range or bandwidth? We call this a band-limited signal. It has a highest note. It doesn't go on forever. And that's a really key requirement for the sampling theorem to work. Now, this is where it gets really cool. When we sample that signal in time, something amazing happens in the frequency world. The math shows that we create perfect, clean copies of that original frequency fingerprint, and they just repeat, spaced out at intervals of our sampling frequency. So as long as these copies have their own personal space and they don't bump into each other, all of our original information is totally safe. And, you know, that immediately leads to the critical question. We said the rule was to sample more than twice the bandwidth. So what happens if we break that rule? What if we sample too slowly and these copies start crowding each other and overlapping? Well, that overlap, it has a name. And honestly, it is the #1 villain in the world of digital signals. It's called aliasing. And it's not just that you lose data, it's that your data gets corrupted in a really sneaky way. Think of it like a spy. When aliasing happens, a high frequency doesn't just disappear. Nope, it puts on a clever disguise, pretending to be a lower frequency that wasn't actually there to begin with. It impersonates a valid signal and sneaks into your data, corrupting it from the inside. It's an imposter. And you can see exactly what's happening right here. The sampling rate is too low, so the copies of our spectrum are overlapping. That high-frequency tail from the copy next door is literally folding back into our original signal's frequency band. You've actually seen this. It's the classic wagon wheel effect in old movies. The camera's frame rate, its sampling rate, is too slow, so the fast-spinning wheel gets aliased and looks like it's spinning slowly backward. And the result is a total mess. The spectrum is permanently distorted. That folded back information has now mixed with your good, valid data, and there is no way to separate them. You can't filter it out later. The damage is done. It's irreversible. The source material I was looking at used this fantastic phrase for it, double jeopardy.
And it's perfect. First, you lose all the information from those high frequencies. That's bad. But then it gets worse. Those very frequencies you lost come back in disguise to actively sabotage the lower frequencies you were trying to keep. You lose twice. So if aliasing is the villain, we're going to need a hero, and that hero is the anti-aliasing filter. The strategy is so smart because it's so simple. If high frequencies are the troublemakers, then just get rid of them before they even have a chance to cause any trouble.
So here's the game plan. Before the signal even gets to the sampler, you run it through a low-pass filter. This filter basically acts like a bouncer at a club. It chops off any frequencies that are too high, the potential defectors that could cause all that sabotage. Yeah, you cleanly lose that high-frequency information, but you completely protect the integrity of the signal you actually want to keep. The double jeopardy is totally avoided.
Okay, so this is some really cool theory, right? But it's not just an abstract idea. The sampling theorem is the invisible engine that powers the digital world you and I live in every single day. Let's look at just a few examples. I mean, seriously, look at this list. Every single time you make a call on your phone, stream music, watch digital TV, you are experiencing the sampling theorem in action. All of these amazing technologies, from the CD player to software-defined radio, are built on this fundamental rule of sampling and anti-aliasing.
It all comes together in a process called pulse code modulation, or PCM, which is basically the blueprint for how we turn sound into digital data. And what's the very first step? Sample. You capture the wave at discrete points in time, following all the rules we just talked about. Then you quantize, which is like finding the nearest step on that digital staircase for each sample. And finally, you encode that step number into the ones and zeros our computers love. So when you think about it, it's pretty incredible. By taking these separate snapshots, these discrete samples at just the right speed, we can flawlessly recreate our continuous reality. Our whole digital world is built on this foundation. The math says we lose nothing. But it does leave you with a kind of mind-bending question to chew on. If our entire digital experience is just a perfect reconstruction from a series of individual points, what does that say about the nature of the information that exists?